Good morning. Welcome to Cosmic Compass. Most of you know me, but just in case, I am Denise Elizabeth Byron, and I am bringing you some fabulous guests today. But before we get started, we're going to do some breathing. I'm going to do a little astrology talk and pull cards so we can get our morning and afternoon and evening, depending on where you are, off to a good start. So if you want to join me, you can. You can do whatever feels right for you. So being able to bring yourself to yourself, acknowledge your space, be present with who you are, where you are right now. And if you feel like closing your eyes, just you can, or you can just drop your awareness into your body. Just take a normal breath here. And on your exhale, if you think to drop your shoulders or relax your jaw, bring awareness to the points of contact where you are sitting or standing, depending on where you are, or lying down, depending on your situation as you listen. And now we will take a moment to take a deep breath in. And again, fill your belly. Allow yourself to just be very aware of the body. On your exhale, letting that come out through your mouth, dropping your awareness deep into your body, breathing in, expanding your belly. And exhaling when you're ready. Dropping the shoulders, relaxing the jaw, bringing awareness to your hips, your knees, shins and calves, ankles and feet. And on this next inhale, really connecting to the earth, breathing in, expanding the belly. And exhaling when you're ready. And now dropping even further into the earth and acknowledging all those who have come before, acknowledging this earth here, where you are, breathing in, expanding the belly, really connecting, grounding to the earth. And exhaling when you're ready. And together we'll come back into this beautiful circle. And from this place, we'll connect with the cosmos. So I decided to start with a new deck for all of us today. This is going to be the Queen of the Moon Oracle deck. And the reason I'm choosing this, I'm going to just pull one card and then three from the regular deck that I use, is partly because we have a really important full moon coming up on Thursday. For some of you, it will be Friday. For those of us here on the West Coast, I believe it is Thursday. So this full moon is really offering us an opportunity to deepen into the practical aspects of our spiritual growth, our spiritual evolution, our spiritual practices. And it's a perfect time to actually have our guests on today. So that's exciting. Having an opportunity on the full moon to, if you can, take some time for your spiritual practices, whatever they may be. And they might be being out with your horses, your cats, your dogs, your plants, your people, your land. It doesn't really matter where that spiritual practice is, just taking time for that ahead of the full moon. This full moon has a very powerful eclipse. So many spiritual traditions have us take time inside, go inward during an eclipse. I know that the trend is, how can I go out and see the eclipse? And that's really where the energy seems to be all the time is, where are you going to be? Will you be there to be able to see it? That's great. If that's what you want to do, that's wonderful. And just a reminder that many mindfulness practices say, wow, it's an eclipse. Let's go inward and use that portal. Let that portal guide us to what's next. As you know, eclipse energy brings change. It can accelerate things that we want. And sometimes it brings things that that are unexpected, and those can also be things that we need. So there's a lot of openings for Thursday. So here's the card to kind of go with that. Now this is interesting. This, because it is a moon oracle deck, it actually has names of moons. This is not the name of this moon, but it is a full moon card. So that is really cool, because it has all of the different moon cycles here. And this one is about fruition. This is not the harvest moon, but all full moons give us an opportunity to fruition. And I think with this one as well, just a reminder from the overall landscape. We have today, actually today, exactly right now at this moment, we have a beautiful trine between the moon and, no, is it the moon? Yes, hold on. Let me double check because I just looked at it. And of course, now I can't remember. Yes, the moon is trining Mercury and Venus. The moon is in Leo, Mercury and Venus are in Aries. This is a really powerful, I think, reminder that we are here to take our spirituality into action. And that's really what this year is preparing us for on various levels. And then by next year, we have so much energy in Aries that we have the opportunity to bring this spiritual consciousness, our awareness, our mindfulness, our safe containers, all the things that we have. So fruition, bringing things to fruition. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'll send more in the follow-up. And then I'm just going to pull 3 cards. And I'll just do this. And the way we do this is you just get to look at the cards. I'm not going to tell you what they mean. These are for you to just deepen into. This is your connection with your higher self, your intuition, the cosmos. Okay. One of our favorite cards on this show, Cosmic Compass Conversations, loves the Tower card. We pull this card a lot. It's a beautiful card, full of regeneration. That's as much as I'm going to say. But what I'd love for you to do is just take a moment. What do you notice? What do you see? How do you feel? And so many of you have been doing this with me for so long now that you're like, oh yeah, the Tower card. Okay. Yay. Here's our next card. We don't get this one very often, but maybe because of our 2 guests, we're getting this card this week. We're getting the Queen of Pentacles. So take a look at that. And again, you can put yourself in the card, create a narrative. I like putting myself in this card and creating a narrative. That works for me. It's beautiful. And just again, your intuition will guide you with what is the most important aspects of this card for you. And then the last card. Oh, we get this one quite a bit too. Not surprising. This reminds me of all of us here, right? The High Priestess card. So again, the energies here, they very much go with the moon, but also Neptune, Venus, actually a lot of them. So what do you feel? What do you sense? What do you see? And for those of you that know the tarot and understand the different representations here, you can put those into, but it is really, tarot is really about you connecting with your intuition, right? It's not necessarily being about right or wrong, or it's about just connecting. Okay. So speaking of connecting, and speaking of connecting to our spirituality, to our lives, living well, as you know, from reading the newsletter. You wouldn't be here otherwise. I have two wonderful guests, and I'm going to introduce them and put them into the spotlight right now. So first, I'm going to introduce Cathy Woods. I met Cathy in San Antonio. And Cathy, I'm going to ask you to unmute here because I muted everyone there when I was doing the breathing. Cathy, thank you so much for being here. I'll bring Kansas on in a moment, but I just wanted to say that when I met you in San Antonio, the thing that struck me the most is that you are truly living that connection between mind, body, heart, spirit each and every day. And you happen to also have horses as a part of that as well. So, yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you all for those who are tuning in today. Denise, it was such a pleasure to connect with you. You know, we all ended up at this summit, and a lot of us didn't know each other. And for me, my experience was I felt like I instantly had soul friends that I knew forever. And I have a beautiful memory of you. I present often, but for whatever reason, that was a little different kind of presentation for me, for all of us. And I did have a little nervous energy going on, and I was breathing through that. And I remember standing there ready to go on stage, and you and I probably knew each other for, 5 minutes. And you came over and gave me the biggest, warmest, most loving, grounding hug. And I know that that had an impact on my presentation, on my energy. So thank you. I never forget that hug, and I look
Oh,
forward to another one of these days.
oh yeah, that would be great. I would love that. And Cathy, you live in, let me just make sure, North Carolina, right?
I'm in the Smoky Mountains of North Carolina, correct?
Yes. So, wow. Thank you for being here from the Smoky Mountains and your energy, bringing a wealth of experience. And again, Cathy has led a number, I mean, many, 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 many events and retreats and is a speaker and teacher all over. So I'm really grateful that you're here with us today. And I'm going to bring in Kansas now, who many have met already on Cosmic Compass. And Kansas, thank you so much for being here. This is so exciting. Um,
Good
and
morning, both of you. Good
yeah.
morning to everyone. And yeah, it's always a pleasure to come back and also be receptive with everyone's intuition and wisdom coming through. So I'm just as tickled to be a participant and an observer and witness as I am to also share a little bit of some of the things and insights that have been coming in lately.
Yes, thank you. And so Kansas is another one of those soul friends from San Antonio who um, it was my pleasure to have the opportunity to begin our friendship at that time. And Kansas is one of the best teachers I have ever experienced. Especially, I'm not a horse person, so I haven't been to the horse clinics. And I have taken several of Kansas's heart math classes, and just phenomenal. So, Kansas, we're very, very blessed to have you here. And I'm going to very quickly here turn this over to each of you because what I really want to do is give you both an opportunity to talk about how you want to be here today and also the collaboration that the two of you are doing that you don't need to be a horse person. You can be an any person and attend a very profound connection retreat. So I'm going to turn that over to Cathy and Kansas and let you share whatever you want to share.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to say I also met Kansas at the summit as well. So there were some beautiful heart connections made there. And Kansas and I have a lot of commonalities in our lives, in our background, and just felt that it was very aligned for us to collaborate on an event. And we really felt into what that event was. We didn't want to just pick something random. It had to be something that really made sense for both of us. And we are partnering with the Yogaville Ashram. It's the Swami Satchitananda Ashram in Virginia. And we are offering a program in April called Aligned Equestrians. I don't want the word equestrian to intimidate anybody because, as you said, anywhere the word horsemanship is used, we can also use the word lifemanship. And this can be for anybody who enjoys animals, being with them, being around them, sharing space with them. And Kansas can speak more to, the animal communication part. But really, our program is just about getting aligned, getting congruent, what that means, tools to access that state, how to remain in that state, how to come back to that state when we move out of alignment, which we all do as part of our human condition. And Denise, I'm sorry, Denise,
That's okay.
Elizabeth, you go by either or, right?
Yeah.
You used the word practical in the beginning of
Hmm.
our conversation. And I always say I'm a practical yogi. I've been
Hmm.
practicing pretty much my whole life. It came into yoga practice, tradition came into my life very early on. But I really don't have a super esoteric approach to yoga and mindfulness, and really like to make it accessible to anyone and everyone. So that's really one of my goals is and missions is to bring practical teachings of yoga. And when I say yoga, I don't just mean the yoga postures. I do mean the whole of the practice, the mindfulness, the breath work, the energy awareness, etc. And I also like to bring a practical approach to horsemanship, making it accessible to anyone and everyone. There are not going to be horses at Yogaville, but when I do my equine events, I really like to have attendees feel comfortable with whatever their level of horsemanship is, whether it's just standing next to a horse and breathing with them, or mindful grooming, or maybe high level eventers and everybody in between. So I think one of my missions is to make yoga and horsemanship accessible to everyone, and use those practices as a way to enhance our lives and give us tools that we can use in our daily lives. So
I
that's
love
a little bit about what I wanted to share.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And there's two things I want to say, and then we'll bring Kansas in. One is, I was there for your yoga practice at the Journey On Summit in San Antonio. And yoga has been a part of my life in different ways. And since I was young, because there was is it Lillian, who was on PBS. Back when I was growing up. And so we all would do Lillian's yoga in the living room, not knowing anything about what we were doing, but it was just what we did to just stretch. We were stretching. We were stretching our body. So I've had yoga classes over the years, but I've never been in a room, and that was a small group, I think, for some of what you've done in the past, but I think there was 150 people doing yoga, and I was in the back because I've had injuries, so I have to go really slow, and I didn't want to be up in front. But it was really extraordinary. The energy, Cathy, that was amazing, and it really set the tone, and it was stunning. So I just will always
Oh,
remember that. So thank you.
thank you. Thank you for being part of that. And that was one of the bigger classes I've done. My normal events are around 20, 30 people. So that
Oh,
was that
that
was a
was
big
extra.
class.
Okay.
Yeah, that
Well,
was
you did
extra.
great. You are a
Thank
pro.
you.
You are a
Thank you.
pro.
Thank you.
Okay. That is
And
amazing.
thank you. And I feel like the teacher, the instructor has to embody the practice in order to collect the room in that way. And I try to come from that space of getting out of my own way and really letting just spirit move through me, and share with the group that's there in whatever way that presents at the time. So thank you for being part of that and for your compliments. I appreciate that.
Well, there's a couple people here who were there, so I see them. I see their beautiful faces right here. Kansas, welcome back to Consummate Compass Conversations. What would you like to add, either about yourself or about this collaboration that's coming?
Oh, well, what I want to add right now on what either both of you guys have spoken to, just to bring in the group that we have here together, and I know many people have turned off their video, and that's fine. But if you feel fluid, that you can write into the chat, when you're describing this experience, Denise, about Cathy's masterful facilitation and teaching and being in that live environment, 150 people all gathering together we're all there to unite for some sort of improvement, or we feel like we want to align ourselves. Like, how does that make you feel? Because I know just as you describing it, it brings a smile to my face, just the memory of it. And I can feel like a warmth in my chest area, my torso. And I just want everybody to just take note when we discuss and describe that event. What are you noticing and feeling in your somatic awareness? Because anytime that we're getting a chance to, I think, bring our mindful awareness to whether it's a previous experience, something we're happening now, or something that we can imagine that we've never even stepped into, our body has a response. So what is that body? What are we noticing? And I just noticed that boost. And it's something that in heart math terms, we call it's coming into really heart coherence. And what I get excited about is these practical spirituality. Or you spoke about the energies right now are really for taking our spirituality into action. That's exactly it. It's like we learn, we study, and then when we're actually in a live experience, also the amplification that takes place when we're in a collective, in an in-person event, it's so profound. So I'm seeing a couple messages here in the chat, one from Marilyn that says, yes, it feels wonderful to have a group that together focuses on healing. Yeah, so when we have those shared values and we come together, there is that boost that we all get. There's an alchemy that's taking place, a chemistry. And we all are inspired by things that we read, we see, we hear. But when we come together to really help support each other, it just has that exponential increase, both in the integration, and there's that mind, body, spirit connection and alignment. We're tapping into kind of the multi-dimensional experience, right? We get all of our five senses integrated, but then we also add in some six, sevens, probably seventh and eighth, ninth, other ones that we have yet to quantify and measure. Holly's saying that she can feel energized in the Zoom, right?
Mhm.
So being in the Zoom experience is beautiful, and gathering with those like-minded shared values, those heart qualities that we all embody together. As a heart math facilitator, this is what I love just drawing attention to, because we're all coming in and out of these rich human experiences, coming in and out of coherence, and life will constantly bump up against us, asking us to grow beyond our comfort zone, right? And, we just had International Women's Day, and we are women gathered here, and there's a beauty and a joy, and I would say like an acceleration and momentum that carries forth on its own. And I love having the opportunity to gather together to really see what spirit wants to bring in that alchemy, and taking our practical spirituality into action so that we can bring that lived experience home, and that embodiment becomes more familiar, because that's what we're really doing. And that's why Cathy and I got so excited to create an opportunity. I was really impressed by Cathy in so many ways, because as a yogi, a lifelong yogi, I had come in and out and was quite a rebellious, teen and experimental young person, and also very shy about embracing this spirituality in a very public sort of way. And I was really inspired by Cathy's authenticity and this embodiment of practical spirituality. And I thought, as a yogi, how can we come together and offer? Because I have experienced the beauty of being in a retreat or yoga intensive that takes place at an ashram environment, which is really a cultivated purity, a place to step into the sacred together. Really, that's what the land creates. And so when she presented this opportunity to go to Yogaville, I've never been there, but just looking at the pictures, I'm like, I can't wait for myself to go, because we have this beautiful, Lotus Temple, which is a gathering for all faiths to come together. And whatever your connection is to the divine, some people just call it uh, being in alignment with the heart, being in alignment with love, just being a good person, or we can take it into these other octaves of names of divine presence, being with earth wisdom, right? But we're basically all gathering to be a beneficial presence on the planet in whatever way we can. And if you're here on this call right now, most everybody is interested in connecting to what they care about, and most usually in service to the greater good. And whether that's in service to your animals, to your family, to your community, it's unique to each person's blueprint. And it's just exciting to get together because we know we amplify that and then we can send that heart coherence out. And it really does have a measurable and profound effect, not just for ourselves, selfishly, that's good. It's a way of self-care so that we can help and show up in the day to day, but also really it is a measurable effect on the collective. So that's a little bit
Ah,
about what I want to say. And I just get passionate and excited to see y'all.
it's
And
fabulous. It's fabulous. I'm realizing as we're doing this, like the connection of the two of you and the energies, and then going to Yogaville. I've not been there either, but it looks amazing. It's on the, now let's find out where it is. There's a lot I have to ask, but where is Yogaville?
Buckingham,
yeah,
Virginia.
yeah, you
Yeah.
you tell
Yeah.
it's your backyard, your neck of the woods.
Sort of, yeah. Buckingham, Virginia. I think if you fly in, Charlottesville, Virginia is the closest airport, maybe about an hour. And it's a beautiful setting. I've led other yoga retreats there over the years, and very serene. You can feel the energy there is palpable when you walk into Yogaville. As Kansas mentioned, the Lotus Temple is just a divine space to meditate and to connect with the divine and to connect with higher self. And it's just such a nurturing environment. And it's one of the true authentic yoga locations, retreat centers that I feel are really left in the US. That really haven't gone too astray from the true roots and origins of yoga. So that part of it just fascinates me, that there's still somewhere to go to without flying over to India or elsewhere to really extrapolate that deep yogic vibe and experience.
You bring up something really important. There is this connection to the sacred and the connection to, like you, both of you are, how can we bring this into our lives? How can we increase the frequency of love or divine connection, however, or connection with horses or connection with, plants, nature? That to have a place that is dedicated and devoted to that energy is wonderful. And I loved how, Kansas, you said it's open to all. This is not just a particular faith oriented place. It is an open place devoted to the sacred, and
Mm.
also apparently to the somatic experience of moving your body and being in your body. So I think, have both of you have been to India, I'm guessing?
I have not.
You have not. Kansas, I know you've been to India. Have you had an opportunity, Kansas, to go to an ashram in India or any of the places devoted to the sacred there?
Absolutely. And again, I don't want to make it seem as though it's exclusive because, like Kathy said, you don't have to go all the way, and you can make a sacred space in your home.
True.
Your altar
I
in your
have one
home
over
can be a
here.
sacred
Yes.
space.
Yes.
Some people will gather under a tree, and that's their sacred space in
Mhm.
whatever locale that they are in. However, India has a centuries old tradition of anchoring in mindfulness, spirituality, connection to all that is. And really, I think Hinduism is separate from the idea of non-dualism or Advaita, which is known as this um, connection, recognizing that we are engaged in oneness, that there is an action and reaction to the quantum field
Mhm.
within every division. We're all within every individual. We are all connected. And so the places that I've visited in India are really temples to that. And
Mhm.
sometimes there might be a deity that is presiding over that particular quality for us to honor or explore more of, whether it's a divine feminine, whether it's in a very fierce form like Kali or Durga, or whether it's in a more soft form like Lakshmi or Saraswati, or in a masculine form, or in an animal form, or in a half animal, half man form.
Right.
So there's all different ways according to all the individual temperaments of the human mind.
Mhm.
Because we know the universe is diverse. Mother Nature likes diversity. So there's lots of different ways to tap in. And what I love about Yogaville and any other ashram that is attempting to bring in really that sacredness, that tradition, and there is a very deliberate, I would say, alignment as well to sacred geometry
Mm.
and form that gets brought over. So you step into a temple that is bringing those teachings of sacred geometry, and Vastu is known as like the Indian feng shui, and that's about where we place our alignment with regards to the directions. And those who study Native American spirituality, or obviously the our indigenous roots from European and Celtic culture, honoring the directions and the elements. That's all part of it. It's all one. And in a way that's exciting. It's like, oh, how interesting how the mother gets the mother divine, the divine feminine gets worshipped in this place.
Oh, that's
So
beautiful.
you
Oh.
don't have to go to India. You can see it right here. And then you can carry it with you, that
Mhm.
experience wherever you go, and carry it with you in your heart.
I love that. Oh
And
my gosh.
I'd like to point out too that the word yoga means unity,
Yes.
and it doesn't mean flexibility or athletic ability. That's sort of depicted on social media, right? But the essence of yoga is to unite, that we are all one, and to unite our own bodies, minds, and spirits, which is alignment.
Kathy,
Mm.
thank you for that because that is the piece that was missing when I was a kid watching PBS. We didn't know that. We just thought it was like this is this new exercise, right? That we're going to do now. But that idea of alignment and oneness and unity, Kathy, what drew you to yoga? Because you said you've been doing this a very long time.
Yeah, so I was drawn to it on a cellular level. I did not grow up in a yogic family by any means, but I was doing as a young child, 6, 7, 8 years old, doing yogic practices and contemplative practices and meditative practices. And of course, my parents thought that was a little unusual, but thankfully, they let me explore that. I say they let me explore the woo. And what I believe woo is really windows of opportunity. And
Mm.
so I was really on a self taught path at a really young age. Didn't know it was yoga. I would do peculiar little disciplines like sitting in full lotus pose for 30 minutes watching the Flintstones. so and I knew there was like some value to the discipline of, even though I wanted to move and fidget and felt some physical discomfort, to stay with that for the 30 minutes, and didn't really know what that was about. And then fast forward in high school, I took a high school psychology class, and now looking back, the teacher was clearly a yogi. She had written some names on the board, Rama and Shiva and Om, and she said pick one of those, and we did a whole week on meditation. And I loved it. I was not a real academic, but I loved this piece of school. Like, wow, where has this been all my life? And I started using the meditation practice at home, and I was finding in my ballet dancing, I was remembering my routines better. My organizational skills in life were becoming better. And this was just from a little bit of meditation. And then fast forward again to maybe age 18 or 19, I met my guru, Yogi Amrit Desai, who is from India, and felt a connection with the lineage directly, and studied with him for many, many years, and still do. He's now 92 years old and is just a wealth of knowledge and inspiration. And just being in his presence, my personal growth just exponentially expands. So that's a little bit about my yogic journey. And then got asked to teach a few classes here and there, and really started taking the formal practice once a week. And I said to myself, wow, if once a week is having this kind of impact on my life, what is a whole lifestyle dedicated to this like? And that really embarked me more fully on the path. Thank you for
Wow.
asking.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great story. I now Flintstones will never be the same. I love that so much. And the horse piece, and again, I want to just say that, nobody has to have experience with horses to go to this retreat or any of these things, apparently. Cathy, I am curious about your connection to horses and when did that start? And how did you do this combination?
Thank you for asking. Animals have always been one of the loves of my life, and been around horses most of my life. Been an avid backcountry trail rider here in the Smokies for the last 30 years. I have horses, and I lead retreats at different ranches, resorts, equestrian centers. My trademark program is called Body, Mind, Equine, and the book that I wrote is called Yoga for Riders. And basically, Denise, what I was noticing is what I was doing in my yoga practice, I was also doing in my horsemanship. So, for example, if I'm on the yoga mat and I was out of alignment in downward dog, I would self correct. If I'm riding my horse and I felt like, wow, I'm out of alignment, my weight is not symmetrical in my stirrups or my shoulders are up under my ears, I would have the awareness through yoga, which is an awareness practice, to self correct. I was noticing things like breathing through challenges on my mat. I would get into a challenging yoga pose and I would notice I wasn't breathing fully. I would be riding my horse on some of these technical trails here in the Smokies, and I knew I had a big creek crossing coming up, and I could just feel myself getting nervous and edgy. And I was transmitting that energy to my horse, and he was getting nervous and edgy. And much like I would do on a yoga mat, I reminded myself, breathe through the challenges, deepen the breath. So there are so many parallels between the two practices, that I came up with my Body, Mind, Equine program. And moreover, beyond the physical, I was noticing what energy I would go to my barn in had a big impact, because we all have the ability to detect energy, and horses are really the masters of that. And if I was going down to the barn to load my horses in the trailer or tack up, and I was rushed, I was anxious, I was task oriented, my interactions with my equines would be one way. And then if I would go down there from a centered, grounded place, maybe did a little breath work on the way down to the barn or did some deliberate yoga practice, I would notice my interactions would be more fruitful with my horses. So our energy totally impacts, and they're just great mirrors for us they show us our blind spots a lot of times.
Amazing. I'm appreciating very much that there was something I read somewhere that reminded us that you're not doing yoga. Well, you could do yoga on a horse, but it's not about that. It's about being connected and deepened within oneself and then being with your horse or anything else in your life for that matter. I'm very
Right.
aware of what and this is a thing, and I want to share this with people that when I met Cathy and then heard her speak and then attended the yoga class, Cathy, there is, and I think Kansas spoke to this too, there is such an authenticity to you. You live this. I can feel it in the timbre of your voice. I can feel it as it moves through your body. I can feel as you share these stories and share the way things move in your own life, that you really are living this. It's a life, it is a literal lifestyle for you, each and
Thank
every.
you. Thank you so much. As you say that, I was getting heat kind of
Mhm.
building in my body as you were saying that, kind of a warmth. To me, yoga practice, if we're doing yoga on the mat 1 hour a day, what are we doing the other 23 hours of the day? I feel like I like to bring those practices off the mat into my business interactions, into my personal interactions. And, we're doing the yoga of horsemanship because that's the arena that Kansas and I work in, but you could be doing the yoga of kayaking, the yoga of eating, the yoga of listening. So it really is applicable to anything and everything. And I want to thank you for saying that it's not about yoga on horseback, because truly that was been one of my biggest struggles is when I would pitch this idea of yoga for riders to equestrians, they were like, "Oh, downward dog on your horse." Now, and I don't do that. I don't do any challenging yoga poses on the horse. I do a few stretches mounted, and they're really just to get us to slow down, to move with the breath, to become more body aware. And I'd love for Kansas to talk about this too, because she really has a level of horsemanship and heart-centered, heart-based horsemanship that I so greatly admire. And I'm just so excited to partner with Kansas, because I just feel like we both bring similar but different things to the table. So I'd love to hear from her a little bit about the horsemanship and the mindfulness piece too.
Oh, thank you so much, Kathy. I mean, there's so much admiration going on, not just for Denise to invite me on and with you, but also with everybody here acknowledging really,
Mm-hmm.
horsemanship to me is a wonderful character building opportunity. And anybody who chooses to engage in that relationship, you notice you're deepening your awareness, you're deepening not just your perceptions of the world around you, but hopefully your inner perceptions, like you said, your weight distribution, your proprioceptive awareness, which is really feeling your body in space. It's interesting because you speak about moving away from yoga on horseback. And I was a young person who was doing yoga on horseback without anybody telling me. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really even know what yoga was at the time, but I would do kind of a full back bend bridge on a galloping horse. And that was something that was kind of easy for me. It's really strange. So there must have been previous lifetimes of being a yogi. But there was something that you can cross appropriate. And what I love to mention is we don't have to do these things in order to have any sort of realization or epiphanies, those hard, austere, impossible seeming things. It's really bringing it into the mindfulness of the simple practice of aligning our breath, or simple practices of a sun salutation, which we can even modify things in a chair for those who might have, knee problems or back issues and things like that. I've started to notice my wrists and my shoulders are sensitive, so I have to be careful of chaturangas, which is more of a push-up posture. And so it's, you know, bringing ourselves into a physical movement helps process and integrate things, because as human creatures, we are in this mind, body, spirit interaction all the time. And the emotional body is something that I also have learned its impact really with regards to heart coherence. If we get in a triggered response, like you mentioned, Kathy, that can transmit to our horses if we're feeling tension or stress. It's measurable, right? And so that impacts our social connections. It impacts our family environments. It's not just at the barn, but it's in our home or in our work. And so I just love how I've can spend my 30 years plus research in the horsemanship domain as a high level performance rider, not so much in competition, but exhibition, which in a way is very much like theatrical performance. You can't make a mistake. It's very discouraged and sometimes even dangerous if you make a mistake, We're really, it took me, it was funny. I was doing my first show at a circus with my kids who were now in their teen years, and they were trick riding and I was just running the horse for them. So I wasn't doing anything dangerous. And I was standing in front of a curtain waiting for it to open, going, "Oh, wow, isn't this interesting? I don't have to put myself into that warrior mindset of, okay, I'm doing something where I'm putting myself at high risk taking."
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I could step out onto stage on foot, not on the back of the horse, and go in and play and dance with the horses. And I was doing some liberty, and it was beautiful, and there was an ease to it. But what I learned through being in high intense and high risk environments with large creatures is something that can be carried through in the mindfulness practices of how we communicate in that integration of the yoga of everyday life. And what I love to share with everyone that I meet that's even outside of the equestrian world is that we might have animals or we might be just a lover of nature. And that connection that we have, that appreciation that we have, the interconnectedness and the interspecies relations, that has a universal quality to it. And it's something that we all really feel inspired to lend our support to because we know we care for this earth, we care for this planet, we want to make it a better place. So how do we bring those same concepts that seem separate into the small everyday acts, whether we're at a park and we just see a squirrel in the trash bin, right? I love to be able to take this animal communication that I've developed because being with horses, it's really a silence practice. Working with horses in nonverbal communication, you learn the energetics of communicating without language. And humans are so wrapped up in language, it's very fun, and we tend to think in words, but we feel and we're transmitting beyond the language that we're so used to. There's a universal language of the heart. And so bringing those tools for animal communication as well as communicating with the natural world are really what I find is something that I'm passionate about now. To let everybody know you don't have to be a horse owner or even a pet owner in order to be communicating with the natural world.
Oh, that's beautiful. I have many questions. One of them is a very simple, practical question, and that is, what if someone didn't have any yoga practice at all? Could they still come to your retreat?
Absolutely. My favorite people to share with are people that are new to yoga because I love giving people a good introduction to what authentic yoga is. So, whatever your yoga looks like is fine, whether it's chair yoga, whether you just sit there and relax and breathe. Again, making yoga accessible to everyone. So, this is not like a boot camp yoga retreat. This is gentle, mindful yoga. And, Kansas talked about the physical. The physical is a great entry point to the higher states. So often when I'm teaching meditation, people say, well, I can't meditate, and I will use movement as a technique, for lack of a better word, to enter into meditative states because we are physical beings. We're used to moving around in this body. So to actually go from movement, feeling prana, life force energy flowing through us. That's the same prana, the same life force energy that is flowing through the trees, the planets, the oceans, our horses, getting in that interconnected state and going from that movement to feeling the contrast of stillness can be a really great entry point for meditation, especially for people who, like myself, can be kind of fidgety and high energy. To use that to go from movement to stillness, because I think when we have that comparison, that opposition, each one is more pronounced.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. And equally so, I want to just ask Kansas, does anyone need to have any heart math experience to come to this retreat?
Absolutely not. I mean, we all have to breathe anyway. So what I love to teach is that we get to breathe mindfully, and we can all do this right now. I put my hand here as a habit. We point to ourself. We know the self is really seated here. Many people don't say this is me. We have an awareness intuitively. So right now we can just, we're all breathing. Bring your attention into a mindful breath and focus your attention into the heart, the chest area. And imagine that your breath is flowing in through the heart and out through the heart. Just breathing a little bit deeper, and a little bit slower than normal. And just this moment where we practice heart-focused breathing, one can already see how that calms your emotional, physical, and mental energetics. Just a few cycles of breath. So as you're listening, you can continue that heart-focused breathing. And this is one small practice that we can add on to whatever we're doing throughout our lives. Before you step into a meeting, as you're listening to someone perhaps speak about a conversation that is either requiring a lot of intellectual concentration, or it might be something that we notice we are having some awareness of judgments about. We can still practice that mindful, heart focused breathing. It keeps us in the now. It
Mhm.
keeps us present with our surroundings. And that is a life skill that is required for horse people, anybody who works with wildlife. And we bring that out into so many different domains. And the other thing I just wanted to tap on when we go to any kind of retreat experience, whether it's at an ashram or at another place that's reserved, a container for the sacred to unfold. The beauty is we don't have to think about, making I guess you can make your bed, but making breakfast, making our lunches, having things prepared, it's all done with such a beautiful mindfulness. But other people who are also, spiritual seekers, and the beautiful meals that are there, there's yoga offered twice a day as part of the program at this ashram. And then Cathy as well will be offering modifications for those who might have different physical vulnerabilities that restrict movement. It's all really taken into consideration. But the beauty is that we get to do a deep dive together and we can answer those questions. And we're just taking a few days to say, okay, for these 3 days, we're going to practice some new exercises and create that routine, and then perhaps be able to carry some of those pieces with us in when we go back home. That's the beauty of any retreat, as I'm sure you can speak to, Denise. You've done and participated and facilitated many of them.
Yeah, no, you're right on. And I wanted to share that again, part of the cosmic compass, if you will, that bringing us into alignment. All three of us are very aware of this because we're all offering retreats and know that the experience of coming together and breathing, being, trusting, surrendering, opening, all of that increases our frequency. And at a time when I know many people ask me, what should I do? What can I do? How can I make a difference? How can I help? One of the ways you can do that is to go to a retreat like the one you're offering, that allows people to, as you said, Kansas, at the very beginning, fill up and nourish, but then also offer something into the space around us. We are not just alone in our field of energy when we gather, as Cathy was saying, as you were saying, as I say, every time we do this, we're gathering into this beautiful field of energy. We each bring our own gifts, we each bring our own energies, and together we create something much stronger. Which, as Cathy said, yoga means unity. So there is that union of coming together, that weaving, that yogic weaving of energies that brings us together. So
Mm.
um, I know, Cathy, I wanted to leave a little time. I don't know if 7 minutes is enough, but if you wanted to lead us in a little centering, I would love it if you think there's time.
I think there's time. And the good news is, again, practical. So many of these things that we do can literally be mini meditations throughout your day. And like Kansas mentioned, the breath, I always say the breath is like this tool we always literally have right in our back pocket. We can use it in a traffic jam, we can use it online at the grocery store. So, yeah, even little mini moments of meditation. So, I want to talk just for a moment about energy. We all have the ability to detect energy and to direct energy. And awareness is key. Yoga is about awareness. Horsemanship is about awareness. Hopefully, life is about awareness. And being aware means being aware of our energy. So I'd like to just lead a few minutes of energy awareness and just dropping in, checking that inner landscape. So I'd like to invite each of you to close your eyes as long as you're not driving or on the back of a horse. That's my disclaimer. So eyes closed. I'd like you to feel where the eyelids meet. Feel your surroundings. Feel where your body contacts the floor or the chair. Feel where your hands are resting. Hear any and all sounds around you. And I want to invite you to come down from thinking and doing and drop in to a space of just being and just breathing. Not being a human doing, but rather a human being. What does it feel like to just be? So with your hands, have them resting palms down for starters. Eyes are closed. And feel what that feels like to have hands resting palms downward. Take a few deep belly breaths. And then with eyes closed, I'd like you to turn your palms upward, resting your backs of your hands perhaps on your lap, your knees, the arms of your chair. And just feel what that feels like to have the palms facing upward. Energetically feel. Do that again, palms down, palms up. And decide intuitively what feels best to you, palms down or palms up, and let them rest there. So just a simple movement as such as mindfully turning our palms up and down creates a different energy space. If we're feeling a little nervous and scattered and that we need grounding, palms down may be preferable. If you're already feeling very expansive and open and free, perhaps palms up is more preferable. And that may change even throughout your meditation. Now let us just drop inward and just check without judgment. Just notice the inner inventory, the inner landscape. Notice if there are parts of your body calling your attention, where they are, what they feel like. You're not trying to fix them. You're just an observer. Notice the quality of the breathing. Is it deep or shallow, fast, slow, through nose, mouth, or both? Notice the mind. Is the mind focused on what we're doing, or is it busy chattering and scattering like the mind likes to do? Again, no judgment. Notice where your emotions are this day. And then lastly, observe and notice your overall energy. Are you feeling centered and grounded, nervous and scattered, sleepy and tired? So just checking in. And then let's take a few deep 3-part yogic breaths, allowing the belly, ribs, and chest to expand with the inhales. And deflate in that reverse order. The chest slightly collapses, the ribs slightly contract, and the belly pulls in at the end of the exhale. And just do that 2 or 3 times. Utilizing your entire lung space, refining the nervous system, notching down nervous energy, calming and lowering the blood pressure, quieting the mind. And after 2 or 3 or 4 deep, slow, steady, rhythmic breaths, just check in with yourself and notice if any slight shifts have occurred for you from when you first dropped inward. Then thank yourself for coming to this conversation today. Appreciate yourself for taking a journey to higher self, to self-care, to heightened awareness, to integration of body, mind, and spirit, to unity of all that is. Hari Om Shanti, 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 and Shanti means peace. May we experience peace in our lives and peace in our world. Namaste. And as you feel ready, just slowly, slowly allow the eyes to open, and you may even want to gaze downward if that's a little less shock to the nervous system after being within.
Wow. Thank you so
Thank you.
very much. That was beautiful. So I have deep reverence for what it is you're offering in April, and am grateful. And I believe it is over the weekend of April 12th. Is that correct? Somebody's going to check.
Yes.
Yeah, taking
April
some
9th through
meditation.
We
Yeah,
should
it
know
begins
this.
actually the 10th.
the 10th. Okay.
Yes, right before my birthday, so I'm excited. It's kind of like a
That's what
birthday
I was
experience as
thinking.
well.
Yeah.
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 So there is
Yes.
an eclipse, the I believe it's on the 12th of April. And I will double check my notes now to make sure I know. Yeah, there's another eclipse energy happening at that point. So we are in a very powerful time of being able to connect with those deeper energies and bring them forth through breath, through the heart, through movement, through connection, through stillness. So I thank you both so much for being part of that. And I'm going to encourage anyone who's interested to please reach out to Cathy and or Kansas. I will put follow-up information. It's in the original email, but there it is. It's also in the chat. And on my apologies, my public apologies to those in different time zones. I forgot that you did not go to daylight savings time the way we did over the weekend. So for those that just joined, you will have to watch the recording because it is beautiful and a conversation that will nourish me throughout my day. So Kansas, Cathy, any last words before we close?
I just want to thank you for having us, for collecting us all as a group, for sharing your gifts, which are beautiful and profound and necessary at this time in our world. And with regard to our upcoming retreat, please don't feel, if you're not an equestrian, that you can't come to this, because this is just really about becoming a more aligned and skilled human being. And that spans, beyond horsemanship. So again, thank you for having me, Elizabeth. Denise, Elizabeth. I don't know why I always want to call you Elizabeth.
It's a beautiful name. That's why
It's
I
a
added it
beautiful
in.
name.
So thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Namaste.
Namaste to you. Kansas, any last words?
And deep gratitude for everyone, absolutely. And I think at the end of this recording, for those who just joined, I'm happy to stay on for a moment and still
Okay.
chat. And I also wanted to share that even if you can't attend this retreat or something else that is happening throughout the year, don't let that feel, don't feel disheartened by that circumstance, that you still can tap into energies. They're a little bit different, but we don't want to make something better than less than. There's definitely an experience of being, they have this, what IRL these days means in real life.
Right.
Right. So we get the virtual thing, but having an in real life experience, it's a different, wonderful part that we get as humans. So, but
Yeah.
if you can't come, you can find ways to still tap into those same energies and frequencies. So I think everybody who's listening to this, either live or recorded, and have a beautiful rest of your week.
Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording.